everybody. I am delighted to welcome you to the award ceremony for the SI Leeds Literary Prize for 2024. Myself and my three other judges, Khadija George Sesse, Rosemary Hudson, and Latoya Inararity, have had a fantastic time judging the entrants for this year. It's been quite heated at times, if only just because there have been so many brilliant voices doing a raft of ambitious things across historical fiction, short story collections, dystopia, buildings romance, and it's been quite difficult to kind of narrow it down to the shortlist and then even to try and find the winners amongst this. I would say to any of you who didn't make the shortlist or the top three entrants that actually have won, of which I'll announce later, not to give up. I think the difference between you and people on the bookshelves is perseverance. Every single entrant had incredible qualities that we really took a huge amount of pleasure in discussing. And I think that is a testament to the ambition that is still out there, even though sometimes this industry can be incredibly challenging. So please do keep going. However, to those who did make the shortlist and to the top three entrants that have won, of which we will discuss later, it has been an absolute pleasure to read your work, to discuss it with such ferocity and complexity. And it wasn't easy, but it was incredibly deep and meaningful to all of those involved. And because of that, I think it would be really great if we could actually hear from the shortlisted authors so you could see exactly why they caused so many emotional reactions within the four of us.
It's been 3 years since I visited Wildwood. I press my foot to the accelerator and the forest unrolls, moss-covered trunks stretching to the left and right. A sign warns of wild boar. It's a hot August day, but the sun is hidden above the leaves that enclose the road with their thick, dark weave. We crossed the suspension bridge half an hour ago, and I can't help feeling we've left more behind than its engineered white cables. Why did I let Mama talk me into coming back? In the passenger seat, Paul scrolls through his phone. With his shirt and pressed jeans, you couldn't mistake him for anything other than a banker on a mini break. Now he swears. No bloody signal! I need to get through these emails before I take the week off. Perhaps we shouldn't have come? No, Paul raises his hands. I'm keen to see your childhood home. I was 13 when we moved here. Not really a child. Not an adult either, but entering that awkward in-between stage where you lose yourself for several years before emerging as the person you really are. That's what happens for most anyway. Some stay lost. The canopy thickens and the headlights come on. Mama doesn't mind living alone in the forest. She says she's used to being surrounded by woodland spirits, having grown up 7,000 miles away in the jungles of the northern Philippines. I haven't told her about the ghosts that wait for me amongst the trees, shadows as long and persistent as guilt. Despite the air conditioning inside the car, my armpits are sticky. On the road ahead, there's a compacted mass of fur and blood. A rabbit, maybe, caught by surprise as it lolloped across the tarmac on a dusk raid. We pass the gateposts of the old sanatorium and a brown sign directing tourists to the Forest of Dean pottery, a site that has been closed for years. The vehicle bumps as I turn onto the unpaved lane. Now we're close. Before we reach Wildwood, there's one more house to pass. The cottage that was once our nearest neighbour. Whoa, look at that old place, says Paul. My stomach twists when I see how much it's disintegrated. The windows are cracked and the roof slopes precariously with gaps in the tiles like missing teeth. Vegetation has encroached all the way to the door, as if the cottage is sinking into the forest. They used to say a witch lived there, I blurt out. Paul snorts. Some people will believe anything. For a second, I'm 13 again, following Ellie towards the cottage door. "Don't worry about my mum," she whispers. "She's not used to having people round." Her fingers interlace mine, grip hard. "You're my best friend, Nina." I blink and shake my head. Ellie is gone, taken by fire, taken by water. Paul doesn't know about her, and he never will. The cottage recedes into the rearview mirror, its blank eyes staring after us. It happens in a heartbeat. A small figure looms out of nowhere, eyes wide and shocked as the car lurches towards her. There's barely time to gasp as I scramble for the brakes. The steering wheel slips through my hands. A thud and a scrape. My nose explodes in agony. The car shakes. Then we've stopped.
Tobe has already left for school by the time I set off for Mercy's house. From the top of her veranda, you can see to the curve of the road. Here, there are no noisy radios or clatter of lids against pots. Not even the sound of chickens clucking in the yard. When I talk to my mother about how peaceful Mercy's house is, she says she would miss the laughter and chatter of our home. I know Mercy agrees. She always complains that her house seems doubly quiet after she's been to ours. As I wait for her, my skin begins its all too familiar itch and I begin to scratch. First the back of my knees and then the inside of one elbow. This means it is too hot too soon for the time of day. I must try not to scratch again before I get to school. But now the thought is in my head, it only makes me scratch harder. Perhaps I should ask Mercy for some talcum powder or aloe to help soothe my itchy skin. Just as the thought comes to mind, the front door opens, bringing with it a stream of morning gospel music and the out-of-tune, out-of-time voice of Mercy's mother singing along. "Esther!" Mercy's arms stretch towards me before she hugs me, tight, as if it was not only yesterday that we had seen each other at church. I give her a quick one-armed hug in return, and try not to scratch when I see Mercy's mother watching us. "Look at your face. What is the matter with you?" Mercy's mother asks as I rub the back of one knee over the front of the other and then scratch at my neck. "It's just my heat rash," I tell her. We both know she already knows this. She stoops and examines the skin at the back of my knees. She clucks, poking a long, pointed fingernail into the crease where it itches most. "Mercy, go inside and fetch the talc." Just like an evil witch, Mercy's mother's fingertips drip blood. At least that's what I thought when I was younger and didn't realise her nails were painted a bright, vivid red. When Mercy returns, her mother takes my wrist between finger and thumb as if I'm contagious and inspects my inner arm. "What is your mother thinking?" she tuts, before uncapping the powder and dusting me as if I were a termite infestation she's determined to stop. "But of course," she continues, as if talking to herself. What with her market work, perhaps she's too busy to deal with the things her daughter needs. "My mother and I will be making a batch of coconut oil this weekend," I reply quickly, though there is no such plan. Mercy's mother looks at me as if she can read the lie in my mouth. "And you know how long that takes," I add, holding her gaze. That will show her that my mother has time for me. "Bad skin," Mercy's mother says, as if to herself. "Bad heart," I mutter, but perhaps not quietly enough. Mercy's mother gives me an extra generous dusting of talcum powder. "Just to be on the safe side," she says, showing me her teeth. Mercy thinks it's a smile. I know it is not.
I know you're excited, Yusuf, but sit still. How can I finish your makeup when you keep moving? My aunt presses her knee into the velvet princess chair to stop me from shaking it. I was practicing the routine. She applies the Frosty Cerise eyeshadow as the final touches. It's her good Max Factor stuff. Auntie Nina's salon is actually the box room in our terraced house, crammed with clothes and makeup. It's where she gets Pakistani brides ready, ices them white like beautiful cakes and paints their faces on. This is her cash-in-hand beautician/entertainment empire. I stare at myself in the mirror. I look perfect. This is a big wedding, Yusuf. They've paid good money for the performance, so when the music starts, you go for it. She holds some hairpins in her mouth and starts sticking them into her head to flatten her crunchy perm into a more respectable shape. I love flying through the air, covered in glitter and a starry cloth called moonlight. I want to do this forever, Auntie Nina. The pins drop from Auntie Nina's mouth and clatter onto the lino floor. Yusuf, there is some talk. What kind of talk, I ask. The new imam. Look, I've explained to him you're 12, a young boy, not even hit puberty, all arms and legs. Babyface, I interrupt, and rub my hairless cheeks. I hate the hair on my legs, and the thought of turning into some mini beast like the men at the mosque terrifies me. Yusuf, I reassured him it was a halal show, no mixing and dancing between real girls and boys. I even said the old imam had given his approval. And you told him that in England, men play women in pantomime all the time? Exactly. So I said Yusuf pretending to be a girl is no different. I pulled the pink scarf over my head, careful not to move the wig. Auntie Nina lets me do what I want as part of the act, but she won't let my hair long for every day and uses clippers to cut it short. And we don't care what people say, do we, Auntie Nina? I rustle my silky peacock-coloured outfit. She turns to face me, and after a few long moments says, I haven't made you confused, have I? Confused how? Just with this dressing up like a girl and dancing. No, Auntie Nina, there's nothing to be confused about. I am a girl. I sit on the narrow landing with a full face of makeup. I wear one of Auntie Nina's old bras under my t-shirt. It feels like a shield clamped to my body. I feel safe. I can hear Auntie Nina and the new imam in the front room. He clears his throat as the special occasion teacup rattles in the saucer. Yusuf has the potential to hurt our community, and we do not need any more reason to be attacked or to be any more different. I have a duty to look after a fellow Muslim man, and this area of work is a personal interest of mine. I can administer therapy for Yusuf, corrective therapy.
I decide to create a runaway bag for Da without his knowledge. I steal a few of his shirts, shorts, and underwear. He looks for them all over the house, but doesn't think of checking under my bed. When he asks Wamsi, did you borrow my blue t-shirt? I keep my eyes down to give nothing away. Sia complains that I'm distracted and asks if I'm interested in somebody else. I swear that she is the only one for me, but Da is feeling low, and it is my responsibility to cheer him up. He must be missing your mama, she says. I start keeping an eye on our neighborhood policemen. In a few days, I recognize them by sight. They have various shapes and remind me of organic pears bloated in the middle with small heads. If a purse or chain snatcher runs in front of them, they will never be able to chase the thief. The one closest to our home has a huge black mole above his lip. He rotates it every time he speaks. Maybe he's trying to twist it off. I sit on the bus stop and stare at him. He never notices. I'm just another kid waiting for a bus. Sometimes I follow him when he goes to buy his cigarettes. He doesn't seem very fast. He walks like a tortoise, dragging his body, his small steps. I wonder whether I should poke him in the stomach and run away just to test his speed. But I am scared. What if he catches me? What if he comes home to complain? I stare at him so much that I notice when he gets a new pair of glasses. I think the older pair was smarter. He always leans against his motorbike, facing the shops. His back is to the traffic which whizzes past, breaking 100 traffic rules. Da would call him inefficient, and that makes me happy. Inefficient cops can't catch criminals. There is a lady constable behind our house. She wears jasmine flowers in her hair, which I find a bit corny. Cops carry guns, not flowers. Once when an old man was having trouble crossing the street, she stopped the traffic just for him, held his hand, and walked him across. Maybe she's kind, and if she knew my Da had a little boy, she wouldn't take him away. The one who scares me the most is 2 streets away. He's a large policeman, about 6 foot, the tallest man in uniform I've seen. He is huge but not fat. He looks like Hulk with an uglier face, a giant in khaki. I hate him. He often chews pawn and is always surrounded by smaller, thinner constables who bow and bob around him. A few days back, when I was watching him discreetly from the shop across, he suddenly thundered towards me. He bent down, looked into my eyes, and said, "Just like you are watching me, I am watching you." He made a V with his index and middle finger, pushed it towards my eyes, and just before he poked them, he backed away, turned the V towards his eyes, and nodded menacingly. I almost peed in my pants. After that, I stopped stalking policemen, but I locate the police station in our neighborhood. If Da gets caught, this is where I'd have to go with a lawyer. It is an old tiled house converted into a building. There are people walking in and out of it. The outside smells of pee. 2 constables are sitting on the steps and smoking. I'm standing opposite the station, watching how one of the cops spits on the ground after every drag of his BD, when 2 more cops come holding a man between them. He is in handcuffs. The man's face looks like a ripe strawberry which has bounced on the floor. One cheek is swollen, and the eye above it bulges like a blue frog. He is wearing a brown toned shirt and hasn't shaved. His stubble is white, but his hair is black. There are little coin-sized scars all over his face. I think he must have scratched a lot when he had chicken pox. The steel loops make him walk funny. When I sit down for dinner, Da tosses a roti on my plate. I look at his wrists. They seem too big for handcuffs.
Comfort. In the morning, Comfort stretches her body until her feet reach the end of the mattress. She whispers a quick prayer of gratitude, just like she had each morning back home in Jamaica. And in this way, she carries all the sense and wisdom her country has given her. On the breakfast table, a carton of prune juice sits beside a large box of Kellogg's cornflakes. Comfort suspects that Jean must have noticed her looking at the carton because Jean tilts her head and says, "It helps to keep me regular." Comfort is surprised to hear this because Jean and her house are all about regularity and order. There are no oddities, clashing colours, or extravagance. It is meek, as if ordained by nuns who have shunned even the smallest forms of gaiety and splendour. Jean. What was that song she thought she heard Father Witham whistling? She can't remember its title. Comfort. During the first week of her stay in England, Comfort tosses and turns at night as she tries to find a comfortable sleeping position. But the mattress is hard, and she can't sleep for missing Aunt Hetty in Jamaica. She has FaceTime moments when Aunt Hetty talks very loudly, as if the miles that separate them mean that Comfort has grown hard of hearing. Daily texts arrive from Aunt Hetty, and as usual she complains. Most frequently she grumbles about how Vincent Meggie keeps dropping by and saying he's making sure she's not lonely, bringing her homemade pone and bunches of flowers that she knows for certain he has stolen from the church graveyard. Aunt Hetty chased him away with a broom and threatened to douse him with cold water if he ever pitched up at her yard again. Comfort can't help but laugh at the thought of Aunt Hetty chasing poor love-struck Vincent with a broom. Comfort thinks back to the conversation she had with her landlady over dinner this evening. Studying the woman's face, she had noticed the freckles that dotted her cheekbones like spots of dark talc. The woman's nose was hooked, and her face was what Aunt Hetty would have called handsome, with definite good looks. But not the beauty that men kill over, or women get killed over. No, something more sober, and regular. The landlady asked Comfort about her family, and Comfort said, "It's just me and Aunt Hetty. She was my dad's eldest sister. My parents died a long time ago." "Well, we've got that in common. My parents have passed away too," the landlady replied, and wiped her mouth with a napkin. "It's hard when you're left." It was a Me Too moment, and Comfort nodded and ate another forkful of food. "This is good, very good." The landlady smiled. "Thank you." "I like to cook," Comfort said. "Me too." "I can cook most things, but my patties and savoury dumplings are what I'm famous for." "Famous?" "No, not in a celebrity way. In our village, people always ask me for my secret dumplings recipe." "How do you make them?" "Flour, water, butter, seasoning, salt, pepper, spices. I fry or boil them, but I pound them good and soft until they're ready." "How do you know when they're ready?" Comfort opened her hands and stared down at the lines that crisscrossed her palms. "You can feel it in your hands." Jean nodded, and for the first time Comfort felt her breathing ease. They agreed to make dumplings the following evening. Comfort was aware of the curious way in which their bodies made the same movements as they talked, as if she was looking in a mirror. Comfort closes her eyes and allows the cool of the night air to settle around her. Memories of her parents have faded, but one persists. Her parents sitting by a wood-crackling fire, and her dad taking her mum's hand in his, while singing in his baritone voice. "'Tis long time, gal, I never see you. Come let me hold your hand. 'Tis long time, gal, I never see you. Come let me hold your hand. Peel head drawn cross, sit down a tree top, pick up the blossoms. Make me hold your hand, gal, make me hold your hand." The shadows of Comfort's parents' swaying bodies lengthened and glittered by the reflection of Comfort's moonshine baby body. This image swings on a single hinge and sounds with the soft clapperboard of time passing and sand slipping. Jean. Jean had wanted a sister. She had a blood sister at school, her bestie, Marguerite Breakspear. Making tiny nicks at the tip of their index fingers, they pressed them together and Pinky swore that they'd be sisters forever. They said they'd live together in a good witch's cottage and own a sweet shop. Jean even pretended to have a lisp, because Marguerite had one. When Marguerite and her family moved to Cardiff, the girls exchanged letters for several months, until these became fewer with time. Jean remembers sharing sherbet dabs and the tinkling in Marguerite's giggle. When Jean turned 7, her parents asked her what she wanted for Christmas, and when she answered, a baby sister, her dad became silent and her mum hurried from the room. Neither a baby sister nor a baby brother arrived that Christmas, so the next Christmas, when Jean was asked the same question, she asked for a gerbil and roller skates, and she got them. Lying back on her bed, Jean thinks back to supper. She remembers Comfort's cautious smile, her eyes as dark as obsidian, and her cropped hair capping her head like black moss. Jean is surprised they have so much in common. She could have listened to Comfort's voice all night as her stories about Jamaican village life unfolded like yarn. Jean writes in her diary, "I thought I was getting a lodger, but Father Witham might have found me a friend, and her name is Comfort McFarlane. We shall see."
Prologue. In 2084, millions of people dreamt of immigrating to the southern province, where people of all heritages lived in harmony and peace. The interconnectedness of landlocked countries and outlying islands had been nurtured during the century so that no one country held sway over another. Mutual respect and trade within the southern province had made it a nirvana in the imaginations of those desperate to escape the oppressions of the northern and eastern provinces. To settle in the southern province, one had to be part of an intergenerational family, such as grandparent, parent and child. All life experience, at whatever age, was welcomed. All lives were equal. It was also a stipulation that immigrants must have 1 million SP dollars to support themselves as they assimilated into the SP way of life. The Western Province, although made up of liberal democracy countries like the Southern Province, was not an attractive province to immigrate to, as the people remained poor and hungry due to diseased lands, scant harvests and high food inflation because food had to be imported. The sale of Nathium to the Northern Province had stopped as all the Nathium mines were depleted. Countries were left with polluted watercourses from Nathium waste and a loss of income to enrich their peoples. Eastern Province countries were run by authoritarian leaders who kept wages low, depressed technology markets and increased taxes each year. Leaders rigged elections. Opponents were discredited and often imprisoned. Corruption in assemblies was rife. Leaders despised the Northern Province Federation of Countries as a dilution of sovereign power. Countries in the Northern Province were run by right-wing leaders. Each country was named after its president. The countries had organised themselves into a federation with an elected ultimate leader. Their spies were embedded within the Eastern Province, gathering knowledge about the location of Nathium mines. Nathium was essential to make the batteries that powered the Northern Province's drones. Presidents used the drones to keep their citizens safe.
Thank you very much to our shortlisted authors for your readings. I hope you can see what we discussed with such ferocity within the judging panel. I want to give a huge congratulations to the shortlisted authors. I think that you have shown incredible promise, and I really hope to hear from you in the future and that you will keep writing and submitting, and that one day we will actually be able to pick you up off of a bookshelf in Waterstones. But we now have to talk about the actual top 3 entrants for whom they are going to be receiving some cash prizes as well as a range of literary support. Congratulations to everyone who's been shortlisted and longlisted, and further congratulations to, in reverse order, 3rd prize, Jac Shreeves-Lee for The House That Jack Built and Other Stories. Jac, you have won £1,000 as well as a range of literary support from TLC and Avon. So huge congratulations to you. At 2nd prize, congratulations to Arathi Menon for Da. Arathi, you have won £2,000 as well as a range of literary support from TLC and Avon. So well done. And at number 1, congratulations to Maeve Clarke for Trapped Between Two Worlds. Maeve, you have won £4,000 plus a literary consultancy read and an Avon voucher. The top 3 entrants will have other things that, as part of their winning package, but for everybody who's been shortlisted, I think one of the best things is that you are going to receive amazing exposure. People have been able to come see your work and the knowledge that there is real promise there, and to just please keep going. I want to say thank you for your time. We want to say thank you for applying for the prize in the first place. And I am really honoured to have been able to be part of this process, and hopefully I will just be a footnote in what will become a very long and fulfilling writing career for all of you.